Looking on the peloton, hardly in anger just now. They're all bunching up. One or two have already spotted the rain ahead. They've been to the back there to pick up the little raincoats and start to distribute them. And this is a sure sign the rain might stay with us for the rest of the day. I certainly hope not. In many ways, it'll be a very nervous descent off the Col d'Aspin, which brings us down, by the way, from nearly 4,900 feet. And once you're down, up you go again to 5,600 and the finishing line right here at La Mongie, where we are. 2:48 is the gap. Armstrong in that pack. 41.6 miles to go. So remember that we continue to ride almost to the Spanish border today. There are plenty of Spanish riders here. And as we look at the peloton, let's take a look now at the Energizer long-lasting athlete of the day, Roberto Heras.
This past winter, Roberto Heras stunned Lance Armstrong and the entire US Postal squad when he signed with the new Spanish team, Liberty Seguros. In a single shot, Lance Armstrong lost one of his greatest lieutenants and gained another rival. One of Heras' most memorable moments came on stage 11 of the 2002 Tour de France when he launched an attack on the Pyrenean climb to La Mongie.
Roberto was a champ. I mean, the job he did, he deserved to win the stage, and he was absolutely motoring at the bottom. It seemed like it had done slow down a few times.
In the past, Heras only attacked as hard as Lance could follow, but now there's nothing holding him back, and this year the Tour goes back to La Mongie. The 2004 Tour de France is catered to a rider of Roberto's abilities. Only one road time trial, along with a mountain time trial, make the course pretty manageable for the lanky Spaniard. In fact, Heras won last year's mountain time trial in the Vuelta a España, stealing the overall lead on the penultimate day. Roberto has the same thoughts in his mind for this year's Tour.
We are preparation for the Tour, for try to win. Of course it's difficult, but we must try to win.
Confidence with a hint of pressure. That's what Heras learned in his 3 years alongside Armstrong. Now it's his driving force to take the yellow jersey to Paris.
I think it's good for me and for the team, no? That's pressure. Because if you want to be a leader in the team, you need a pressure, no? Everyone is thinking about you, and I think it's good for me and for the team.
Yes, our Energizer moment there of Roberto Heras today. I'm sure he's going to try and make a big effort, and he'll never forget how he hurt even his team captain, Lance Armstrong, 2 years ago when they came up here to La Mongie. There's the two leaders currently holding a 2:44 gap and continuing to go at a very high speed again today to keep the Tour on a record-breaking average speed, although the mountains are all still in front of them. Good steady pace-making here by Marcus Lundqvist of the Alessio Bianchi team. It was Bianchi with the major sponsors last year, you may remember, of Jan Ullrich. But now they've gone down to join a co-sponsorship with Alessio, and Ullrich has moved on, of course, back to his old company, which these days is called T-Mobile.
Well, Ullrich now is, I think, worried about the fact that he doesn't have the two-pronged attack. When we talked about T-Mobile in the early part of this season, we were talking about a very solid block of riders who would be able to worry Lance Armstrong in the mountains. We were talking about Cadel Evans, we were talking about Paolo Salvadelli, we were talking about Alexander Vinokourov, and of course Jan Ullrich. Well, of that four-name list that I've just given to you, only one man has remained in the final selection for the Tour de France, and it's Jan Ullrich. So it is now going to develop between T-Mobile and US Postal Service as a man-against-man match, not having the tactical advantage of superior numbers that T-Mobile had a month ago.
That's quite right. They really had the men to make the best team in the Tour, and it hadn't worked out for them. Now they rely heavily on Jan doing his stuff again. So as we look here, looks like Van Sevenant wants a little bit of assistance from the following car there. There's our little man. Don't forget, for exclusive race highlights, behind-the-scenes action, AOL for broadband members, go to AOL keyword Tour de France or AOL.com. Four men clear. The sky is getting awfully heavy for them now. They're dry. At the finishing line, everybody is soaking wet. The riders are getting closer. We'll take a break, then come back. We're live on OLN. Welcome back. Tea time in the peloton here. Riders packing on some food, ready for the last steep parts of the day. The hour and a half will take us over the Aspin and the finish at La Mongie. 2 minutes 44 the gap just now. We're still undergoing quite a heavy storm on the finishing line. And while they are still in the dry weather, but the forecast, and I just had a look at it, is to spread the violent storms across the top of the Col d'Aspin as well. So these boys could be in for a very wet end to the race today. Well, it's not always the weather forecast is correct, Paul. Having just checked it on our computer here, they have said they would start in hot weather, they would continue to the mountains in good conditions, but after that they would probably go through violent storms. They haven't done it yet, but we're certainly in them.
Certainly. I think this thunderstorm has actually settled over the top here of the Col du Tourmalet. We're around about 4 kilometers from the summit of that climb. With a bit of luck for the riders, and as an ex-bike rider, I'm always thinking about the bike riders' conditions that they're racing in. With a bit of luck, it might just clear up before they get here. But certainly, if they have to go down the Col d'Aspin in these conditions, it's going to be treacherous.
Just passing through the town of Lannemezan. This is where we start tomorrow in a different direction as we head for the Plateau de Baille. Tough day tomorrow, by the way. Much harder preview than today. And again, this is Yekimov on the front now for US Postal, and it looks like US Postal taking over the tempo there. Just trying to keep control of the front of the race right now. Not surprisingly, because they're going to have to do something about Voeckler today or tomorrow. He still leads this race over the big men, or by almost 10 minutes. Don't think Voeckler or the riders between Armstrong and him will have much of a chance now of seeing the yellow jersey.
There still must be a question mark in the back of Armstrong's mind as to how long this man can survive, Thomas Voeckler. He's led the race very well and ridden very solidly at the front end of the main field, and I think everybody in the whole of the peloton has been extremely impressed by the performance of his team, who basically are regarded as a second-ranked team. And I think they've really risen to the occasion to defend him. Once again, we're getting a little bit of picture breakup, and I suppose that's not surprising this afternoon because of the weather conditions. We do get picture breakup going through the towns a little bit, but on days like this, it's obviously a lot to do with the atmospherics.
Well, of course, with the electrical storms now around us, anything can happen. But at the moment, we've got great pictures. Don't forget, we're way down now on the Pyrenees in the south of France. If you go over the top of the Pyrenees, you come down on the other side, you're in Spain. And there's only two big challenges of the day. The Col d'Aspin up to 1,489 meters. And then we drop back into the valley, hopefully dry again before we climb up to the finish at La Mongie at 1,600 meters. There is the peloton under the railroad track as we stay down in the bottom. We're leaving Lannemezan, start town tomorrow. Nobody in any hurry here, but they will know it is raining ahead because the managers will have told the riders. And the gap at the moment is still continuing to come down. It's 2:41. They're more or less both the Breakaway of 4 and the bunch now riding at pretty much the same speed.
US Postal have taken a fairly serious interest in setting the pace at the front end of this main field with all of the other riders from Brioche-La Boulangère, and they've actually allowed that leading group to survive just that little bit longer. The leading group of 4, which let's not forget as Kim Kirken, Marcus Lundqvist, Wim van Zevenant and Frédéric Finot have an advantage of 2 minutes and 40 seconds. But I would say that advantage will get wiped out with almost the first 2 or 3 kilometers of the climb of the Col d'Aspin, the first climb of the day.
Yes, I think you're probably right there, Paul, as they should just about get on to the slopes of the climb, at least in that leading group. So there's the peloton. Here's one for you not to miss either. Defy gravity with the most awesome action sports athletes. They rip it up in Saturn's Gravity Files. That will follow the Tour de France coverage today at Saturn's Gravity Files here on OLN. That's up next. Well, we've just had the biggest clap of thunder so far, and the visibility is now getting a bit grim on top of La Mongie. These boys have got a few spots of rain on the lens now. Welcome back, and it is quite literally the calm before the storm on today's stage of the Tour de France. I can't see the riders now escaping the heavy rain that lies ahead of them. It is spreading towards the Col d'Aspin. It is very, very bleak up on the top of La Mongie. All of our spectators apparently have disappeared looking out of the window now. If there's no umbrellas available, they've dived into all of the shop doorways. Most unpleasant at the moment. So as we look at the main field here, chance to look back, I think, to 2002, because that's when Lance Armstrong took control of that race. And where was it? On the road to La Mongie, of course. That's how La Mongie looked at this time 2 years ago, and as they raced up it in much drier conditions than they're going to today, I think Roberto Heras set such a tempo, he killed everybody in the Tour de France except in the pink there, Joshiba Bolocki and Lance Armstrong. Armstrong actually asked Heras to slow down. He was having a job matching the pace. When it came to the finish, Armstrong had to take on Bolocki, otherwise I'm sure he would have given the victory there to Heras. That was 2 years ago. Now Heras, of course, is on another team and likely to attack him. And also, Joshiba Bolocki is unfortunately not in the race. Now then, let's go down to the start, because just before the start we did have a chance to talk to Lance, and of course he's with Craig Hummer.
Let's talk, of course, about today's stage. Yesterday you told me that you don't look really for the big moves to be made until tomorrow. In a best case scenario, what do you want to get out of today's stage?
Well, best case, we can see where people are, see if who's truly strong and who's truly not strong. So we'll wait and see on La Mongie. You have really only 7 kilometers of hard road there, but anyways, it's a 200-kilometer stage. It'll be tough. It's hot. We hope for some attacks, and we'll at least get to gauge the others.
It's a pretty basic question, but judging off of yesterday's hot stage, the long stage the day before, how's everybody feeling?
I think they're good. Like I said yesterday, I think they came together and they sense that the race is really starting in earnest, and they also sense that we're entering the final week, so that's always good for everybody's morale to know that you know, you're 2/3 done.
2/3 done maybe in days. It's actually just over halfway through the Tour de France, but today takes us into the most vicious ending for probably 30 years in the Tour de France. And the sun, I'm afraid, has gone, Lance. We're now heading for the rain. Well, there it is, Paul. It started for the 4 leaders, and they're only 2 minutes 26 up the road from the peloton. So the peloton themselves are going to start feeling the rain very shortly.
Doesn't bode well for the Col d'Aspin, which is around about 25 kilometers from where we are, and 20 kilometers to the big sprint point, which will come up in a few moments' time. There's Robbie McEwen riding up to the front of the peloton on the left-hand side in his green jersey. This is a nice situation for McEwen, because with a breakaway of 4, there's no need to sprint out on the road for sprint points for his King of the Sprints race jersey. That's Giuseppe Garini swinging off there. He'll be a man who will be trying to pace Jan Ullrich to the summit of the climbs just a little bit later on. You can feel, I think, the concentration emanating from this peloton here as they know that they're facing the first serious rendezvous of the Tour de France this year. This is Padrinos on the front, Ekimov on the far side, Georg Tocznik. There's Jan Ullrich sitting up there with the yellow helmet. Not sure he's trying to eat his racing cape, but he's got it fairly close to him.
I think he's wrestling to get it on at the moment, and he's just about succeeding. Got a little bit in his mouth. It takes a skillful cyclist. We don't recommend you do this at home, by the way. Ride no hand in the middle of a big bunch of cyclists. These boys are thoroughly professional and very skilled at their profession. The riders, the domestiques, the helpers of Brioche La Boulangère, the boys in red and white, are working very hard at the moment. This looks like Anthony Charteau setting the pace at the front.
Over on the right-hand side, you can see now the big leaders of the Tour de France trying to be a little bit more attentive. The red, the orange and blue jersey there of Rabobank is Levi Leipheimer.
Look at those roads, Paul. They're getting rather wet now. It doesn't appear to be raining, at least not on my television picture, but it certainly is there now. And that is going to have its effect. There's a lot of nervous bike riders now. Liberty Seguras on the right there, starting to move Roberto Heras into a safer position. So there's the peloton. The big boys are heading up. Don't forget, enter Trek's Ride with Lance giveaway, and you do that by going to trekbikes.com, and there you will find your participating dealer. The peloton now know what it's like to ride in the rain on today's stage. I still think of what Lance was saying about it being sunny all day. Wrong this time, Lance. We'll take a break. We're back, and it's quite wet now on the route to Tour de France. Gone is that beautiful start we had down in Castel Sarrazin, where it was really warm and brilliantly sunny and blue skies. Now it's very grey, overcast, and in fact quite torrential rain here on the men of the Tour. Still, not surprisingly, the work being done here by the red and white teammate of the race leader, Thomas Voeckler. Watch out though, because those orange jerseys of Euskaltel, which is the Spanish Basque team, who have on that team two very good climbers in Zubeldia and Iban Mayo. They're coming towards home today. And what have we got, Paul? I reckon about 20,000 riders, people rather, at the finishing line, all dressed similarly.
A lot of people dressed in orange today. If you want to get the fashion police in, you better be wearing orange, because that is certainly the colour of the day, and that's the colour of the Basque Euskaltel Euskadi team. A lot of Basque flags out as well, if you get a chance to see them as we start to come up the climb a little bit later on. They're the red flags with the green and white cross on them, and they will be going absolutely ballistic in the support of their team here this afternoon. They feel that although we're in France, this is certainly their stages today and tomorrow.
They're still push for a big win, and they always ride well if they can in the Pyrenees. It just depends again on the combination as the riders get up to the start of the climb of La Mongie. In itself, because it's the first climb of the Tour, because we don't go right to the top of the Col de Tourmalet, which La Mongie is situated on, some of the riders think it won't be as decisive. It all depends on who makes the moves at the bottom.
Well, at the start of the day, Phil, I think we had the discussion. I didn't think it was going to be decisive, but now the whole face of this race has changed. Now that the rain has come down, the temperature has dropped down probably by 50%, from 30 degrees to 15 degrees. That is going to affect a lot of the riders' bodies. A lot of riders can't handle the cold weather, and what happens when they get a situation where the rain comes down and they get the chill factor on the descents, they'll find themselves having the muscles tetanized or hardened up. They're not able to get the muscles going again when they go to the next climb of the day, and that's going to be interesting to see which guys' bodies are able to actually warm up and keep the pedaling action going.
Big problem now all round here. 52 kilometers for the leaders to go to the finish. That's and a minute 39 the gap over the main field in the Tour de France. The Breton flag there, another proud part of France, which see themselves as a separate nation, as these four riders continue to race towards the big mountain now.
Well, the Bretons are going to feel very much at home, because this is very much like a Brittany-style weather here in the Pyrenees. These guys, although they're working well together, they've actually lost a huge chunk of their advantage. Their advantage is down to 1 minute and 26 seconds, and that's really not because the main field are chasing them, but because the main field are starting to lift up the tempo at the front end to get themselves closer to that mountain. The bottom of the Col d'Aspin is going to be like a stage finish for a lot of these riders. The teammates will be trying to place their leaders in the ideal position to start the Col d'Aspin in the first 10 places. It's a very narrow climb, and on the side that we're going to go up, I find it to be a lot more difficult than if we were going from west to east. The part of the climb which is the most difficult is when you get to around about 4 kilometers to go. It actually kicks up there to about 9%, and that's where we might see an attack coming from one of the Spanish climbers.
Well, as we look at the wheels of the peloton here, bet your life that Lance Armstrong won't be worrying too much, and I have a feeling too that neither will Jan Ullrich. They're both experienced riders in the wet. Ullrich, as you may remember, on Les Deux Alpes a few years ago, having to take on Marco Pantani. He flatted at the bottom, and a very, very good chase through the rain to try and get back on terms, which he didn't do, but he didn't weaken too much either. There's the field taking that roundabout with great caution now, because the roads must feel very, very slippery. There are the mountains now on their left shoulder very soon. Look at the length of that line now, as the riders driving on are the teammates of the race leader. Well, that is a tremendous bit of pressure now being put on there by the teammates, trying to just keep control of the head of the peloton as they continue now towards the left turn and up the climb of the Col d'Aspin. And don't forget, today's word of the day is all category. Log on to olntv.com, you'll find out more there, and you can enter for a chance to win an amazing cycling trip through France. That's all category. So, not such a pleasant sight now, is it, as we appear through the rather wet lens of our camera on the helicopter. The tour goes on, and so do we. See you in a moment. Well, looking here now at the teammates here of Thomas Voeckler, and number 121 is Sylvain Chavanel. The reason he's there, he is bringing back Thomas Voeckler in the yellow jersey, who moments ago just pulled off to the side of the road, and we think this was premeditated. He said he wants a new bike. Now, there appears nothing wrong with that bike, so we think he's changing to a lighter machine ready to tackle the mountains. No panic whatsoever here by Voeckler. There's the bike he wants for the climb over the Col d'Aspin. Looks like his teammate also is stopping there. And as we've just seen, he is now almost back in the field. Very premeditated. Nobody seemingly putting any pressure on him there. And he's the third big man to do that today. Iban Mayo has also done the same, and so too has Tyler Hamilton. So there's the field as they go on. These are the four leaders, by the way, and the gap is continuing to fall down. So don't forget, tomorrow's a huge day, even though it's rather big today. Now the weather's turned nasty, and you'll catch all of the action with us here on OLN Stage 13. Unlucky for some, we hope not. The Tour de France continues. The AOL for Broadband pre-race show with Al and Bob, that will start earlier at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. Our live coverage will start at 7:30 a.m. Eastern, and our prime time coverage begins at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Remember, it's Saturday tomorrow. We can sit back and relax and let the Tour de France do the sweating. So let's go back to the action now, and these boys under a cold shower, I'm afraid now, and have been for the past 20 minutes or so. They are still very much in the lead, but they're slowly losing ground. 1:14 the gap. Well, I think all they want to do now is to hit those lower slopes of the Col d'Aspin. It is very narrow on the Col d'Aspin, just about a little more than the width of a vehicle. So it's a pretty chaotic situation behind the race for the team cars. But for these boys, they want to be there first and maybe have a run at the climbs.
The two men who are the most dangerous, I think, when it comes to the climbs are Kim Kirken and, of course, Marcus Lundqvist, who's a very strong bike rider. But they've really not got that much of a lead now. And let's not forget, they attacked after 1 kilometre of the race. Yeah. So they've led the race now for 151 kilometres, almost 100 miles. And in cycling jargon, when they get to the bottom of that climb, the man with a hammer is going to seriously whack him across the head, I think.
It'll be very good, actually, for Robbie McEwen in there, because he's got a teammate up here in Wim van Sevenant. Looks like the weather's affecting our pictures at the moment. Don't go away. We'll hang on to them as long as we can. The next sprint for the green jersey is just 2 kilometres up the road, so they'll try to stay away until that. That will save Robbie McEwen getting involved in the sprint for the green jersey, because there's 6 points at stake. He said yesterday his knee, which he injured in a fall, is actually, in his words, it's killing me. So he's obviously got big pain there, and he's just going to try and get through the next few days. So he will like this breakaway to stay away for at least 2 more kilometres, and after that Robbie will drop off on the Col d'Aspin and hope to get up to the finish. Don't forget, there are 4 major competitions in the Tour de France, as there is every year. The big one is the yellow jersey. That's for the race on time. That's worn by Thomas Voeckler. Incidentally, he also lays claim to the white jersey as best rookie, being worn in this race at the moment by second place Sandy Cassar. King of the Mountains, Richard Virenque in the polka dot jersey. Familiar situation for him. And Robbie McEwen, as we just said, he's got the green jersey at the moment for the best sprinter on the race. That's for the day's most consistent daily finish. Robbie having won 2 stages so far as well. There's the peloton looking a little bit drab now as we get round these lovely mountain streams. Very often at this time of the year, those mountain streams just about have water in them. Take a look at that one. And of course, they're collecting the water from the top of the Pyrenees, where at the moment, where we're sat, there's rather a lot coming down.
Certainly is, and it's going to completely and utterly change, I think, the way this race is fought out. If the weather had remained nice and hot, I think we might have had a steady tempo on the slopes of this next climb, which the riders are heading up to, the Col d'Aspin. But because of these weather conditions, I think we will see them setting a very hard tempo, which will put a lot of riders under pressure early on. Obviously, the sprinters will look for the group which in the past has been nicknamed the Autobus. It's a group of riders who get together to make sure that they can get themselves to the finish inside of the time delay. You have to finish inside an elimination time on every stage of the Tour de France, and the sprinters know they're going to get dropped, and very often they will actually sit up at the first instance of the climb, just knowing that they can get themselves into a good organized group and then work together to get to the finish.
That's absolutely right. These are the 4 riders here now. We're entering the town here of Saint-Colin, where the sprint is today. I'm not sure how well they'll sprint, because the rider off to the left of this group is the teammate of McEwen, Wim van Sevenant, and he would probably like the points, yes. And it looks like Kim Kirken, who got beat last time out by van Sevenant at 21 kilometres in, and he's putting in a bit of an attack here. He'll take the points, that's for sure, because they've let him go for them, although there's a little bit of an effort being made now by Marcus Lundqvist, but he's done it. So Kim Kirken gets the small money on the line, the small time bonus, and the 6 points as well. So that'll be Kirken taking the points ahead of Lundqvist and Van Sevenant. Doesn't matter to any of them. These boys here are lining up now as we head to the mountains. See you in a moment. Welcome back, and what a difference a couple of minutes makes. Now these riders are about 7 kilometers from the start of the ascent of the Col d'Aspin. The gap to the leaders is only 58 seconds, and they are charging at the race like no one, because all of the teams with contenders are right here. The orange top jersey there of Rabobank, they're trying to bring up Levi Leipheimer of the United States. Those purple jerseys bringing Jan Ullrich to the front, and the bluer jersey in the centre, led by Floyd Landis, looking to bring Lance Armstrong. They are all coming up at a big rush now. I must say, I've never seen them go towards the Col d'Aspin like this before. Well, it's only a narrow road on the Col d'Aspin, Paul. They can't all get there in first place, but they like to think they could.
They're going to sprint for it. You can see as they organize themselves at the front end of the main field, a lot of teams are trying to make sure that they can get their men into the first 5 or 10 places as they go round the corner. Back end of the main field, I haven't seen the yellow jersey for a little while, but I expect he must have been able to reintegrate the front end of the peloton. A lot of his teammates, because of the work they've been doing for days, Phil, are being caught at the back end of the pack. They will have to survive over the last 35 kilometers of this stage here this afternoon. As you can see, the 4 leaders, we're starting to move all of the neutral service vehicles out. The race referee has moved out of this group here, and in fact, for the first time today, the gap has just come inside of 1 minute.
Yes, 58 seconds confirmed. I think it's just going to hold for a few seconds longer, and they're going to be trapped here because they really have decided to put the hammer down in that main field. All of the big teams are now launching an attack, which I honestly thought they would not do on the Col d'Aspin. But the rain has come. There's a lot of nervous riders. They want to get their team to the front. And if everybody wants to put the team leader into the lead, the pace simply goes quicker and quicker.
Well, as we've said on a number of occasions this year at the Tour de France, we haven't had an early long time trial to sort out the hierarchy between the leaders and the men who regard themselves as the pretenders. Right now, I would think we've got 5 to 7 riders who still seriously believe they can win the Tour de France. You multiply that up by 5 teammates, and you've got 35 guys at the front end of the main field here trying to occupy a space which has only been designed for about 5.
Gerolsteiner are on the front here now. They have a good climber in Fabian Weckmann riding his second big tour. He was king of the mountains in the Giro d'Italia this year. Well, there's the face of Floyd Landis right in the centre. But you know, as we now approach the Col d'Aspin, we did talk to George Hincapie at the start today about what would happen on it. Let's find out.
George, first big mountain day. With the team, have you guys talked about who will be controlling which part of the climbs? Like, will you be in charge of Col d'Aspin or wait till La Mongie?
No, it really depends on what Euskaltel does and what Brioche, what Boulanger does, but we definitely are always there, and if we need to control, we will control. And if Lance feels good, we definitely want to go for the stage win.
Will anybody be trying to get in the early break?
Possibly Jose and Chechu, but ideal situation for us is 3 or 4 guys get away with nobody dangerous in overall, and they don't get too far of a lead before the mountains.
Thanks.
Well, so far plan A is working because nobody dangerous got away. They're now just on 58 seconds still in front. They're trying to control this race, but I wonder if they thought, 58 seconds, I think our timekeepers are a bit out there, because there they are all together now virtually at 40 kilometers to go to the finish, and it looks now as though we are going to see the whole peloton enter the lower slopes of the Col d'Aspin. Well, that is tremendous bike riding. That chase came so fast and quickly. Now then, Paul, you've been there before. You've been in this very position, and that is a very fast bike race now.
It certainly is. It's been really compounded by the fact that we've had this incredible change in weather conditions. The climatic conditions have gone from what were absolutely perfect at the start this morning to absolutely treacherous, and that's why we're getting this little bit of picture breakup. It's because the live link up to the helicopter is getting interfered with, not only by the trees in the forested area we're going through, but compounded by the unbelievable weather conditions. This, as we see now, is the development of the race for the corner at the bottom of the Col d'Aspin. The Col d'Aspin from this side is a very narrow climb. It's probably only wide enough for 4 or bike riders in width. There are several teams coming forward. Look, there is Ulrich. He's got his raincoat on. We haven't seen him show anything at all in this bike race. He reminds me very much of a buffalo. He's a strong beast of a man, but he shows no emotion. He shows no character, no sign of what he's going to do next.
And he's got his two favourite men just in front of him there, Daniel Nardello and also Eric Zabel. Zabel never ceases to amaze me. He's got to be my favourite bike rider. He's right there on the sharp end again as they now drive. And this, all of a sudden, we've always talked about this being the quieter day of the two here. And all of a sudden, it could be quite a decisive day. The way they're throwing all pressure, all of the spray off the bike wheels now only compounds the heavy rain.
I've tried to tell a lot of people for a long time there is no such thing as a quiet day on the Tour de France. You have to be alert for the whole of the 22 days of racing. Stefano Zanini there, you just saw him in the blue jersey. Job done, thank you, goodbye, see you tonight, chaps. He's turned it over now to Paolo Bettini on the front. Bettini is doing a fabulous job here, trying to whip up the pace. He's trying to look after his man, Juan Mercado. There you can see, just holding back a little bit, the pink train of Jan Ullrich, and once they get to the final meter or so, they will accelerate. It's a right-hand turn along this road. I know this road very well indeed, and this might be the right-hand turn that they're going to turn themselves onto. This is it, the start of the Aspin.
Well, take it easy around there. You can see they're very afraid of that corner. Look how wide they're going down there at the bottom. Bettini eased the pressure off. Magnificent racing cyclist, Paolo Bettini. We're looking at 12.3 kilometers, a little less than 8 miles now to top this climb. It's not the first category, it's the first one in the Pyrenees, though, as they start to climb up the mountain. Bettini, who was the early leader in the King of the Mountains, on the smaller mountains, he is a very fast climber, but he's doing a job today. And let's not forget, Richard Virenque is in the lead in the King of the Mountains, Bettini's teammate. But here come the boys now from US Postal.
Tricky Beltran there, moving up into first position. You can't say anybody is riding this climb easily at all. They've certainly put the hammer down from the very first kilometre. 12.5 kilometres from the bottom. US Postal Service have got themselves in the position they wanted to. They wanted Armstrong to go around that corner in the top 10 or 12 places. They did that. Now they can just sit back and control and see if the attacks are going to come from the other teams. Orange jerseys now starting to move up just on the left-hand side. This is the local team. Although we're in France, that team feels as if it is the local team. These are the sprinters. These men will be taking a back seat for the next 35 kilometres.
I saw Robbie McEwen in that all-green jersey. He'll be wondering what on earth has happened here as they've hit the Aspin with such a very, very fast pace in hand here. As they now go on to the lower slopes, it is a very tough climb. It starts and stays pretty much the same gradient all the way to the top. It'll average 6.3% as it reaches a height of 1,489 meters today, which is 4,885 feet. That's what you work in. Here's the back of the field. Here is the sprinter in trouble, McEwen. I think, in fact, we expected to see Robbie McEwen on the Col d'Aspin in trouble here, while at the front of the race they have started this climb at an incredible pace, and already they've spread-eagled the field in the Tour de France, and they're trying to take neutral service up to the leaders now.
Well, this is the worst possible time for a bike rider to have a flat tyre, because if you have a flat tyre right now, there's nobody behind to help.
Well, the autobus is going to form pretty early down at the back today as they race to beat the time limit, and that's all they're concerned about because the big fellas are racing hard. We'll take a short break. Rejoin us on the Col d'Aspin. Welcome back, and we go straight to the front of the race here now because there is all sorts of things happening here. This is the split coming off. This is Santiago Botero here, who has now slipped away from the field, and this is the back of the race. We can just see one rider in trouble for US Postal, Pavel Padrinos, but the rest of the team have caused all of this damage. Well, we can just get back to the front, Paul. We know now that US Postal, somebody must have upset them at breakfast this morning. They've gone berserk on here.
Absolutely. I think really what it is, it's the weather gods who got them annoyed because of the fact that they were looking forward to enjoying a very sunny ride through the Pyrenees. This group here is one of the group that have been left behind out on the open road. A moment ago, I did catch a glimpse of the yellow jersey, so Thomas Voeckler is still in this group. I can't see him here, but he was around about 15th to 20th place. I think just trying to nudge in on the right-hand side there.
I think we caught a glimpse there. Well, you know, George Hincapie at the start this morning did tell us that he was expecting to take control of the race if they felt they had to. For some reason, they feel they have to, because this is a big demonstration now. and I think it shocked the pure climbers teams. I think we can see Levi Leipheimer still there as well, and Rasmussen.
Well, any detractors who thought that the choice of Benjamin Noval should not have come into the bike race are completely and utterly wrong here. Beltran there in second position, taking over from Benjamin Noval, who was on the front. And this man, riding the first Tour de France for US Postal Service, I think today has proved to all his detractors, I'm ready and I'm present to do battle for the boys.
What a difference a week has made in the Tour de France for him. He was behind in the team time trial after a crash the day before. He was in tears at the finish. He felt he let the team down. Armstrong himself went to him personally and tried to lift his morale. It didn't do any good. But here we are now on the mountains, and the Spanish climbers coming into his own. And along with the other strong climbers on US Postal, they have blown the Tour de France apart on a climb that rarely sees very much attacking. Walter Beneteau now slipping away off the back, and also the riders here from Euskaltel Euskadi in trouble. That was Unai Echeverria himself, not a bad climber normally.
Not a bad climber, but you see he will have had to do work in the 10 or 15 kilometers riding up to the bottom of this climb for his team leaders, the two lead team leaders, Iban Mayo and of course Haimar Zubeldi, who finished 5th overall in the Tour de France last year. We're picking our way up through the slopes here of the Col d'Aspin, and we get a chance here just to ascertain how big the time gaps are from the group containing the sprinters and the front end of the bike race.
Well, we're up with Mark Lotz here, and this looks to me with the eye of Koos Moerenhout, who's just looked at camera. They have suddenly found the race has just lit the blue touch paper, as Paul often says, and blown everybody away. Nicolas Portal, he survived longer than most. They just cannot believe what has happened on the Col d'Aspin. This wasn't part of the plan, I'm sure, but the rain came down. US Postal thought the best plan of attack and to stay safe was to drive at the front. We're going forward with our motorbike, picture breakup and all, as we just go past riders here, and we know that at the front all of the pacemaking is being. There's the man who won yesterday, David Moncoutier. He's had enough for the day, but he's a lot further up the ranks than most of them, and we're only on the halfway slopes here.
We're actually out of the forest right now. It's good to see that he's hanging on there, but we're on the easier slopes of the Col d'Aspin, 5.5%. It will get tougher.
Well, we're looking at US Postal at the front of what is left of the Tour de France right now, mid-climb of the Col d'Aspin. And it is Noval and Beltran, the two Spanish climbers for Armstrong, who have blown this race apart. The only men really who are left are the significant names of the Tour de France, and the Maillot Jaune is still continuing to surprise us. Thomas Voeckler there riding about 10 men from the front. He has survived an onslaught I think we've rarely seen on the Col d'Aspin.
It's unbelievable the way they came at this climb. I think everybody's not necessarily worried about the Col d'Aspin in itself. They're worried about the descent off it. As you can see, this is actually the easiest descent if we were to come down on the west to east trajectory. It's a safe descent down into the town of Arrow below us. But the way we're going over here, the descent off the summit of the Col d'Aspin is very treacherous. There's some very nasty corners. Some of them come round on themselves almost 300 degrees. They're unbelievable.
Well, we're looking at Beltran taking over from Noval, the newcomer on US Postal, but turning out to be a bit of a star now. Now we know why they selected him. He can drive. Now what's going on at the back there, because that was Rabobank's Grisha Nierman. He's probably number 3 on the team in the mountains, and he's also in trouble now as well. Just having a look down here, this is not the leading group anymore. This is just another group on the road as they try to hang on to the trains from US Postal. We're in for a great race today. We'll see you in a moment. So we're looking now at Filippo Simeoni. Moments ago decided to get away from that very stressful situation at the lead group. We've reckoned there's about 70 riders, so almost 100 riders suddenly have found themselves behind the Tour de France on the halfway slopes of the Col d'Aspin. Filippo Simeoni, he was in the lead, remember, with Lundqvist, and got wiped out on the run-in the other day, which is a big shame for him. Lundqvist, not Lundqvist, the Ludovez, he's the rider who's been dropped already today. Now, the peloton here, now having made their initial surge, reduced to around 55, 60 men, I would think, here now. Nobody missing as far as we know in the key players of the Tour de France, but they've all had a real dig today, and there's the Air Force that belongs to the Tour de France, by the way. They've all decided to park the helicopters here pick up the VIPs and give them the best seat in the house. We're on the Col d'Aspin. And marginally ahead is Filippo Simeoni, and I think he's just been caught. This is Christophe Moreau who's having a go.
A long way down in the overall classification. He probably feels as if they won't lift the pace to chase him down. He was 8th overall in the Tour de France last year, but this year he's already lost himself huge chunks of time because of the fact that he got caught out over the cobblestone section of stage 3, and he trailed in around about 4 minutes behind the winner on that occasion, Jean-Patrick Nazon. This climb, by the way, as the weather starts to play havoc with the pictures, is a fairly long climb at 12.3 kilometers, 7.5 miles. 6.5% is the average gradient, but I can tell you that halfway through the climb, with about 4 kilometers to go to the summit, it's 9.5%.
Well, this is the attack we've just seen of Christophe Moreau as he goes forward now to try and link up with Filippo Simeoni. Two riders, if they've got the legs today, might get away here and continue the great French dream. While we look further down the back of the race here, now we've got a CSC rider here who's trying to... no, that was Simeoni. I beg your pardon, that was Simeoni. Here comes Moreau. Somebody else has got clear as well. And this, of course, who else would it be? Richard Virenque.
Tricky Ricky, you cannot discount this man. He's regarded as the darling of France. He's chasing after Christophe Moreau because let's not forget, Moreau the other day was out on the road just picking away at the points. He's 4th in the King of the Mountains classification with 30 points, 54 points behind Richard Virenque at the start of the day. But that's why Virenque has responded.
And Beltran, who's done all of the pacemaking to destroy the field, has cracked there. He is now slipped to the back of this very select group, and that's the price you do pay. Also, the other man, Noval, is also cracking at the moment.
That's amazing. These men, I'm surprised to see Beltran cracking, Phil, because Beltran, he really looked like he was going to ride the whole way up this mountain. There will be some strange reactions in the body, I think, because of these climatic conditions.
Well, they gave 110% there to do a lot of damage to the main bulk of the race, but it looks as though they've paid the price in full here. Armstrong still has, of course, some of his faithful teammates, including Hincapie and Floyd Landis, up at the front. But you know, Virenque is a danger now. Virenque is seeking the yellow jersey. He lies 4th in this race. That's got to bring a reaction from Voeckler, otherwise he won't be in yellow.
Paolo Bettini, he did a magnificent job of work in the few kilometers leading up to the corner at the bottom of the Col d'Aspin. He now, I think, will just sit up and find his own rhythm and comfortably go over the summit of the climb. Now we're looking at a 3-man leading group. Christophe Moreau in the green shorts there, Filippo Simeoni of Domino Vacanzi, and Richard Virenque, the man who has won the King of the Mountains classifications on 6 occasions. And let's not forget, as you said, Phil, he's fairly high up in the overall classification. And what a surprise that would be if Richard Virenque climbed up from 4th into 1st place.
Well, nothing surprises me with this man, you know, Richard Virenque. Now, we're just being told our helicopters have just been grounded, so we're going to lose our magnificent helicopter shots for the moment because of the bad weather. But once they get round the mountain, and the Col de Tourmalet, which is where we finish, is now bathed in sunshine, so we should get them for the finish.
But the amazing thing about the Tour de France is the fact that we don't have to rely completely on the helicopters. There is a fixed-wing aeroplane which flies at 10,000 feet above the race and brings us pictures all the way through. They might get just a little bit softer, but we'll be able to witness all of the attacks. A big battle here between the French.
Well, they've destroyed their own break here. They've let Simeoni go on the front here. This is Rasmussen coming up as well, and he's got a rider from Euskaltel on his wheel. Wouldn't surprise me. I don't think it is Mayo at the moment, but it might be. And if it is, the crowd here are going to release a raucous cheer because they can see this on the television as he climbs away. I don't think it was Mayo Paul, but we'll have a little closer look at his face there in a second. It looks to me like it might be Igor Martinez again. Wasn't it Martinez and Simeoni together the other day?
Yeah, it was those two riders in the breakaway trying to get themselves off the front. This is definitely Michael Rasmussen on the front. You can just see the World Championship bands. Everybody from Danish television was waiting for the mountains because they felt that this man was going to ride superbly this afternoon. Now, you give him 20 seconds advantage over the top of the Col d'Aspin, you won't catch him because he was a former world mountain bike champion.
Now, this is interesting now because it was US Postal that caused the big split here and did all the making. The men who survived the hit are now having to stay in that peloton because these riders have decided to push on now and try and win the day. And of course, if they win the day and gain time, they will gradually become men who can threaten the overall leaders. Rasmussen, for example, is 11 minutes behind at the moment, but he could be closing in if he got a good win today.
but he's only around about a minute and 40 seconds behind Lance Armstrong in the race of the big challenges. I'm very surprised to see the blue guard, Phil, losing Manuel Beltran, but still they can hand over some very solid other bike. What's the problem there? There's a problem for Floyd Landis.
Yes, just saw one rider get pushed to one side.
That was Landis getting pushed across there by his own teammate, Lance Armstrong.
Unfortunately, we can't control our cameras, and we've cut away from it. Nothing coming to us at the moment on race radio. This is Michael Bogart at the back for Rabobank, who are clearly in trouble as well, while his younger teammate Rasmussen is beginning to move clear here. Awfully sorry about the pictures. We do have an aeroplane flying at 10,000 feet, and it will catch these signals, but our helicopters are down because of the weather. But the weather is clearing very rapidly on La Mongie, so we should have a nice ride to the finish. This is the group US Postal now, just trying to keep a good tempo going, and they're limiting their losses just now because we're looking here at the two leaders, Martinez and Rasmussen. They're not exactly running away from the chase group, are they?
No, they've only got themselves 5 to 10 seconds advantage, as you can see there. Let's have a look at the back of the pack. There is the yellow jersey, still defending very well. It's good to see him holding on here. Number 117 at the back there from the Liberty Seguros team is Marcos Serrano, and I think just in front of him was number 111. That's Roberto Heras. He should be sitting at the back.
There's Tyler Hamilton too off to the right. So they're all in the group. They've read it well. They're allowing US Postal, allowing might be the wrong word, to do all of the pacemaking and use their energy up. Remember, US Postal has destroyed 2 of the team in this effort today. Sitting right here at the back too is Camano of the Euskadel team, another danger man when the roads go up. Looking over his shoulder there is Iban Mayo. This is quite an amazing group now. I think we can just move up there. Heras and Fowen and Tyler Hamilton and the Mayo Jean all riding. Let's have a look at his face, see if you can see what he looks like.
Well, I tell you who's just in front of him as well, number 31, Iban Mayo. A lot of riders under pressure. It's still a very large group. Let's just move slightly forward. That was Gilberto Simoni in the group too. And in fact, Rasmussen now decided to go alone. Everybody wanted to see how this man was going to perform in the mountains. We've seen him ride very well in the past in races like the Tour of Spain and, of course, like the Giro. I don't think they really have to chase down Michael Rasmussen. He's not really regarded as a threat for the overall classification. It's his first attempt at the Tour de France. And I think right here he's finding himself using up an awful lot of energy because there's still 30 kilometers to go to the finish from the summit of this climb.
Well, Michael Rasmussen, there's no doubt in anybody's mind he is a star for the future. And don't forget, Rabobank have never had a candidate to win this race overall. They've always been a very good all-round team to take stage wins, etc. But Levi Leipheimer, that's the reason the American was brought to the team, to try and win the Tour. He came close. He's had an 8th. But last year, of course, he had that horrible crash. Now they've got a 2-pronged attack here. But even so, as they wipe out Martinez, it's big George Hincapie stamping on the pedals. He's a magnificent cyclist.
He is unbelievable. George Hincapie rides a superb early season classics campaign, riding the great races like the Tour of Flanders and, of course, like the incredible performances we've seen him put in Paris-Roubaix. But once the month of July comes, it's dedication to just one cause, and that is the cause of his leader, Lance Armstrong. I'm a little bit surprised to see Roberto Heras riding so close to the back of this group, number 111. But, you know, he's already 2 minutes behind Armstrong in the overall classification. The big difference between riding for a leader and actually supporting the weight as the leader of the bike race yourself is a completely different thing.
Now he has to reverse his tactics. If he had been in the same situation as 2 years ago when he was coming up La Mongie, he would have had to be riding here right now, making the pace for Lance Armstrong. There is Armstrong. There's no message coming at us as to how he feels by looking at his face, but I think pretty good right now. Nobody else is getting a look in here. The whole field of the Tour de France again being placed into second, subservient to the work being done by US Postal. Only Michael Rasmussen is in front.
Just look at him, though. He's got 3 riders in front of him, 1 behind. The rider behind him there is just in case Armstrong has a problem and needs to change his time. Look at Ulrich's face. He's really grimacing. He's looking for the power. He's a big, powerful bike rider, using probably a couple of teeth bigger on his sprockets at the back there than Lance Armstrong is. He's surrounded by his men, too. That's Andreas Kloden in the white jersey, national champion of Germany. Just off to the right-hand side was Giuseppe Guerini, winner at the summit of the Alpe d'Huez a couple of years ago.
Yes, he has his moments in the clash. He's a great ally for Ulrich. Ulrich, remember, he's lost a good man the other day in that very nasty crash coming down the Puy-Marie. There's Heras in the little boy in the blue jersey, and the yellow jersey here I think is under a little bit of pressure here. He's having to work very hard to hold position. Now, Heras may have sensed that because he's gone round him and moved right up, and that was probably a very wise move. Here we go back up to the leader. Michael Rasmussen, he's been around a long time, but not in this particular branch of the sport. He was a mountain biker and a world champion. He's now 30 years of age, and just to give you some idea of his successes, he won the 6th stage of the Dauphiné this year, which is the build-up race for the Tour de France, and last year he won a stage of the Tour of Spain. So he really is a great bike rider. The last time he won a mountain bike world championship was 1999, when a certain Lance Armstrong was winning his first Tour de France.
Yeah, but the mountain stage that this man won in the Tour of Spain was no mean mountain stage either, because if you remember, he won to the summit of the climb called Contender, which is not too very far away from where we are here.
Yes, and Richard Virenque won there once as well, and so too did Juan Miguel Indurain. Well, there he is, and he still looks good to me. He's got a lovely position on that bike, a little small man he is, and he keeps on the inside. He must think, goodness me, there's all these riders can climb like me in the Tour de France. It's a big battle now.
Hamilton, number 21, sitting at the back there. For my liking, just a little bit too far back in the group. If I was feeling strong, I'd want to be riding up alongside Ullrich and Armstrong.
So would I, because, you know, Tyler Hamilton, and we don't want this to happen, has a habit of falling off, and it's going to be a very treacherous descent down here.
2 kilometers to go to the summit of the climb now, and the leader Rasmussen has an advantage of around about 13 seconds. That's Chechu Rubiera on the front. Jose Luis is his proper name, but his nickname in the team is Chechu, and he is always on form in the month of July for Lance Armstrong. Came across the team with Roberto Heras from Kelme. The yellow jersey here, Phil, he's suffering. He's just holding on. He wants to hold on for another meter, another kilometer. He's under serious pressure. I actually want this guy to stay in contact over the summit here this afternoon. He's been so courageous over the last 7 days of racing that I really would like to see him keep the yellow jersey for one more day. He needs to go with him.
We've seen him in this situation where it does hurt him, he does suffer deeply, but he does have the ability to get out of the mess he gets himself in, and we've seen him even sprint out for the Premier place. He had a 5th and a 6th. When you see he's jumping around the riders who crack, and that rider is none less than Michele Bartoli, who is slipping back, and Bartoli's seen the maillot jaune come round him, but he just nips round him, gets back into the peloton. 1.5 kilometers to the top, then it's a freewheel down, and take it easy.
He's riding on courage there. I don't know if you noticed, he actually looked down to see what his gears were telling him. That's always a bad sign, because it means that your body is not enjoying the gear ratio that you've selected. But he knocked it up one sprocket and then accelerated onto the back of the group. Ullrich grimacing there on the wheel of Jose Acevedo, the Portuguese rider. Now they are keeping Acevedo in reserve here as well, I think, for a final ascent to the climb. Maybe Acevedo is going to be the Roberto Heras of 2002.
Well, as we watch Michael Rasmussen here, I can hear the race director, Jean-Marie Leblanc, telling all of the race followers to leave the race for the descent, because not only is it wet, but the visibility is reduced by fog. So let's hope that they can see their way down, as well as Bartoli just about keeps the race in sight here as we're looking for the last kilometre of the climb. And just look at this man. How many times have we seen Voeckler do that? Appears to be down and out. He goes back as if somebody kicks him, and he goes straight to the field.
Well, this is courage. This is the yellow jersey. It really has a special spell that it casts over a bike rider, and it casts a very special spell over that man Voeckler here this afternoon. He was off the back, and now he's halfway up the main field. Hamilton surrounded by his teammates there. Number 21, you can see riding fairly comfortably. He's got Santos Gonzalez not too far away from him. The leader of the race is just going past the 1 kilometer to go banner to the summit, while still the US Postal, Phil, are not showing any signs of pressure.
They've shed 4 men not coming up this climb. Riviera here now doing all of the work. Floyd Landis, George Hincapie. They've lost 4 men, but they've still got plenty around Lance Armstrong for the final ascent. 1 kilometer to go for Rasmussen. I think we're about to hit the same marker. We're not getting a time check any more than 10 seconds. Going up slightly. So it's still very good. Richard Virenque is waiting now, about 10 men down, to try and get the points over the top. It'll be second at the moment, but that'll be good enough for him. Christophe Moreau is still here and showing some good ability on the mountains at what we've seen of them this year. There's the concentration of Rasmussen, 30 years of age and seeking his first ever stage win in his first ever Tour de France.
Well, the Danish were waiting for this. They were very excited about the possibility that this man was going to win here this afternoon. They said he's a strange bike rider. He always predicts when he's going to operate a breakaway. And that's exactly what he told them today, that he wanted to go out on the attack. He wanted to win today's stage. He did exactly that in the Dauphiné Libéré earlier on this year. He actually purposely lost time in the overall standings so that he could attack the next day and win the stage.
George Hincapie, Floyd Landis here. These boys get better and better every year we see them ride. Hincapie seems to continue to develop. What, 3 years ago he wouldn't have been on the mountain at this stage of the day. Here he is setting the pace, keeping everybody under control. Anders Clouden off to the left there, the champion of Germany, looking out for his team captain, Jan Ulrich. As we start to head up towards the summit now, it looks as though Rasmussen is going to get his name in the history books as the man who topped the climb first. It's been a very good climb by him, and being a mountain biker, and they tend to have better skills than a road cyclist, he could well descend very quickly.
He's going to go downhill like a man possessed, and he won't be scared at all about the weather conditions. It is a bit scary on the descent of the Col d'Aspin, especially with the fact that the clouds have come down to make it a little bit foggy in one or two of the corners. But there are some dark corners as well, because after the first 2 or 3 kilometers of the descent, you go into a forested area, and that's very difficult in a forested area to actually be able to read the lay of the line, the lay of the land, and the corners that you're kind of going to go through.
Well, Veronk is moving up there to snatch second place. I don't think they'll get up to see this man here. When the crowd gets thick and deep like this, you know you're not far from the summit of the first category climb. There's a magnificent cloud here. The rain is still coming down, but it is beautiful at the finish on La Mongie now. All of our spectators have come back onto the finishing line in their thousands. I don't know where they've been, but they're back. And just look at the crowd on top of the Aspin, seeing the leader go. Here's the sprint for second, unless they sweep up Rasmussen. And Richard Veronk, watch out, because it was only seconds in it. Rasmussen will go over the top, and that's how close. Looked the wrong way, Richard. I think Moreau pipped him.
Moreau pipped him, I think, just on the line there, but the acceleration has pulled Rasmussen back into the fold. Moreau there going across in second place. I think the photo will give us the right answer. But this is a bit of a worry, Phil, for me to see Tyler Hamilton sitting at the back of the group, surrounded by all of his teammates. Shouldn't be there.
Well, there sitting on the back too is Chavanel of Brioche-La Boulangère. He's last of that very select front group over the Aspin. What a sprint that was. I sometimes wonder if anybody likes Richard Veronk, because the French seem to attack him whenever he makes a move. But he is such a cheeky rider, he'll never let anybody off the hook. We're on the way down the Aspin. A quick break, come back soon. As the riders now begin the long descent. It all started on the climb by Filippo Simoni. Moreau went after him. Richard Veronk tried as well. And then this man finished it off as Michael Rasmussen went up the hill first, and Armstrong still in touch. We'll take our break. Welcome back to the Tour de France, beginning its long descent now of the Col d'Aspin. And it is going to be a long wet drop down to, we hope, the drier valleys. Our helicopter's back in the air, and this is the Trek aerial view we are now looking at. And it is a magnificent shot as well of the Col d'Aspin. Things are changing slightly. The lead group is still very much the select heads of the day. Michael Rasmussen is marginally ahead, and Richard Veronk, we hear, and Christophe Moreau are trying to catch up, although we haven't seen them yet. Just looking at the back of the race, there's one of those nasty corkscrew bends, and fortunately all of the riders getting round safely, but they can't afford to take any chances. Now, never be a spectator, Paul, standing on the outside of those corners.
Absolutely not. These guys come into these corners sometimes at speeds in excess of 60 miles an hour. It's actually in this area and on this very descent that we are looking down at, the climb down from the Col de la Mongie, that my very good friend Sean Yates once recorded 112 kilometers an hour on the descent. Unfortunately, today the riders are coming up.
So, as they, yes, that's a good point, that, Paul. Well, after the mountain points, we think that Veronk was given third place on the climb. He's now got 95 points, if that's the case. Axel Merckx still holding on into second place. Christophe Moreau now beginning to get in the frame there, because he's 43 and he is in third place. Still less than half of Richard Veronk as they continue. There is the leader now, so we do have Rasmussen still up there. As we pull right back, it looks as though the good descenders, I'm not sure where we are here, but I think we're at the head of the lead group.
Well, that's the head of the lead group. Just going around the corner there is Rasmussen, just going in front of those houses. Chasing him still is Christophe Moreau. There was a rider from Euskaltel, Euskadi. It looked like the smaller shape of, in fact, David Echevarria. There's the yellow jersey doing a fabulous job here. This man was dropped at 2 kilometers to go. He's actually said, I can't climb the same way as the big stars do, like Ulrich and Armstrong. I'm always on the rivet. I've got to slow down and accelerate and slow down and accelerate. And he's done that to perfection here.
What a fighter. What an absolutely great fighter. That is Voeckler. 20 kilometers to go for the head of the race. That's 12 miles. And, of course, the last 12 are all uphill. We're only down here for a moment. It's a very pleasant day on La Mongie now. The sun is coming through. The roads are getting a little bit dry. There's 20 kilometers to go for the rest of the string here. So they're not that far behind the leaders, who are continuing to push on. We are lining ourselves up for a great battle on La Mongie. Every man for himself, I would suggest. Here's the leader, still driving on, Michael Rasmussen, looking for his first ever stage win. He has been waiting for these mountains like a first-time cyclist, never mind a first-time rider in the Tour. He has relished the thought of climbing the big mountains of the Pyrenees. Michael Rasmussen drives on now, holding off a very select group of riders on today's stage. Here we're looking at Jan Ullrich and still trying to be guided through by Claude.
Where is Armstrong? Right now I haven't seen Armstrong. This is the Ullrich group. Hincapie is looking over his shoulders, and I think that is because maybe Lance Armstrong has had some kind of a problem. Armstrong is not in that group there. Hincapie is sitting up, so that would indicate that Armstrong has had a problem to me. There he is.
He's in that group there. Well, Ullrich has gone. Now, we don't know how this has happened. Our cameras, our helicopters weren't flying, of course. So we're not sure why Armstrong is here. He's got his team all around him. He's looking pretty regular when you look down there.
He wouldn't take any risks on the descent. You see now they're looking over their shoulders. Now let's see what happens here to Jan Ullrich in the pink jersey. Ullrich, let's not forget, 4 or 5 years ago was regarded as a very bad descender, but now he's put himself into a position where he actually looks very comfortable. This small group containing the yellow jersey and the big contender to the overall title, Jan Ullrich, have got the advantage on Armstrong, but Armstrong has his men around him.
There are 8 riders now in that group, all in pursuit of Rasmussen. This is the first time I think we've seen Lance on the defensive like this for a long time. Rasmussen being chased by 8 riders, including Christophe Moreau, and also the Maillot Jaune of Voeckler and Jan Ullrich. And I think Iban Mayo is also in that group. So Lance Armstrong's been put on the defensive here by some very, very important names. And Rasmussen, who's trying to win the stage, might have got himself involved in a major battle here.
Well, I think Armstrong, I hope, was only just sitting back and not taking too many risks on the descent. He doesn't want to blow his Tour de France on the descent of the Col d'Aspin. But the men in front are men who are serious challengers. Iban Mayo is in the orange jersey. The pink jersey is Jan Ullrich. The pressure is on the American.
Well, there is the chase by Lance Armstrong. That composition, that group is Ullrich, Claude, Mayo, Moreau, Mercado, Voeckler and Brochard. They're big names in the Tour de France. Armstrong is on the defensive. A quick break. Rejoin us on OLN. Welcome back, and just as you rejoin us, there is the return of Armstrong and his teammates. What a drive, though, to get him back up to these very select bike riders in the Tour de France. I don't think I can recall Ullrich going out on the attack for a long time. He usually follows Lance, but he was up there, and Lance has come back with the group. Christophe Moreau is the rider in green. Pressure's gone on at the front, though. Tyler Hamilton is also back, profiting by the teamwork there from US Postal. And this is Veronk and David Echevarria. They're slightly ahead of the race, always have been. Whoa, that looked like Mercado, who's just gone through on our camera. So if it is, we are now finding other riders attacking to try and reach the Tourmalet first. Now, if those 4 riders get together, Paul, then we are going to see 4 riders who might cause no concern to the big riders.
Well, the race situation, as I can see it now, is Michael Rasmussen is still leading, but I have a feeling that Richard Veronk and David Echevarria have just been picked up by the front end of this group. That man trying to launch out there we just saw was Laurent Brochard trying to get across to Juan Miguel Mercado.
That looked like Echevarria just behind there in second wheel. They're taking great respect on the roads here. This is the last start of the last climb of the day soon. As we start La Mongie, will take us up to the finish. We're just starting the climb now. It's some 13 kilometers to the summit. Here come the leaders. This is David Echevarria heading up the chase group. Your guess is as good as mine. At the moment, Laurent Brochard is certainly ahead of this group, and Rasmussen is certainly the leader, and that's about all we know. 13 kilometers to go. Santa Maria de Campin, played throughout the history. The first year we came through this town was in 1910, and not long after that, Eugene Christophe was the famous man who repaired his forks in the forge, and he was penalized because he had some little boy blow up the bellows.
It was tough, the rules in those days. Now you can see Rasmussen here, and he must have started the final climb of the day because he's taken off his helmet. Now, the rules in professional cycling nowadays say that you have to wear a helmet, a crash helmet, on every stage of the race. However, if the final climb of the day is more than 5 kilometers, you can take off your hats at the helmet at the bottom of that final climb. So he started going uphill.
That's right. We saw the PMU sign which announced the start of the climb. That's the signal. You're on the climb to the finish now. There's no more downhill. It is literally every man for himself on this climb up the mountain. Rasmussen is still ahead. Mercado, I think it is now, has joined Brochard in the chase behind, followed by the group.
There's not very much in it, though, because Rasmussen leads those two chasers by just 13 seconds. And then at 24 seconds, or just 11 seconds behind the two chasers, is the main group containing Armstrong, Ulrich, the yellow jersey, Thomas Voeckler, and, of course, Tyler Hamilton, who I seem to think I just caught a glimpse of recovering at the bottom of that descent.
Well, Rasmussen continues to ride at the front. Here is Mercado and Brochard, but they're bringing them back. Grit their teeth they may. That's not a good sight, though. When Mercado looked over his shoulder, he will have seen the group still coming up. Brochard, in fact, got his helmet off, but he's got it on his handlebars. And I would have thought he'd find that rather annoying.
Now, you have to think about the psychology of Jan Ulrich. Ulrich has been caught out by Armstrong's tricks, as he calls them, a couple of times over the last few years. This is Echevarria, job done. He tried to escape on the descent. Now he'll just have to survive up to the finish. Having seen Ulrich get a slight advantage on Armstrong on the descent, I wonder if he's going to make the mistake of thinking that Armstrong was in difficulty and try and attack a long way from the top. There's another problem there. I think that was a supporter, actually.
It was a Rabobank supporter there.
Pretty scary, though.
Always a bit of a shock that. We're going to be fooled a few times by Euskadel, because the orange jerseys of the crowd here outnumber anybody else up on top at La Mongie. There is Voeckler, done a brilliant ride, looked in trouble, went back to the front, was in the attacks, and he's now looking very settled to be the yellow jersey tomorrow as well. Laurent Brochard rides off to the right, while US Postal come back into control now of this race, and I think they've had their shocks, but it looks good again as George Hincapie gets back on the front.
Chechu Ribiera coming to the front now, one of the US Postal riders involved in a crash in the early part of the event. Nearly every bike rider in the US Postal Service had a crash at one time or another, including Lance Armstrong. And just for the record, of all of the major contenders for the final victory, only one man didn't crash in the first 10 days of the race. His name was Jan Ulrich. Everybody else was on the ground at one time or another.
Sometimes you need a bit of luck. He was in the place where it didn't happen. He was delayed by crashes, but he never fell off his bike. There's that very, very select group now. The strong men of the Tour de France coming back together now. It could be that they'll calm down a little bit, and that will give Rasmussen his chance to win that stage. Now we're looking at Hamilton off to the right, number 21, and all in this group now. Remember, we're nearly at the end of what has been a nearly 200-kilometer stage today. The Aspin in the wet. They've safely descended it, and they're now beginning the final climb up to 1,715 meters, which is 12.8 kilometers, and we're about 2 kilometers up the climb at the moment. There's the 10 kilometers to go sign. That wasn't a bad guess, was it? As we now see Floyd Landis on the front. Armstrong, it'll be interesting finding out later as to exactly why he was behind Jan Ulrich. We're looking now at Floyd Landis as he continues to set the pace here. If there was any shockwaves, they put them to rights now. The riders are all together with the exception of a couple of riders just ahead. And of course the rider up front, Michael Rasmussen, will create less of an attraction to this group of riders. They know, though, the steep slopes are still to come. We'll be there. See you there too. Welcome back. Just on 5 miles now to climb to the summit of the col today, which is La Mongie. The maillot jaune there. Slip back to the back position yet again. But I wouldn't worry about that, because he shows us this enormous ability when the going gets tough to nip up to the front of the peloton. But Voeckler is only 5 miles away now from keeping his maillot jaune. I think even if he dropped off, He could not lose enough time now to lose that yellow jersey today. The race being driven on now by Checho Rubiera, George Hincapie, Floyd Landis at the front, Jose Azevedo also up here. And off to the right in the red jersey, the twice winner of the Tour of Italy, Gilberto Simoni. Everybody that's select is in this group. Heras, we think, is just off the back and coming back. And there he is again, Paul, just trying to give us a heart attack, Voeckler, but he's once more riding himself back into the situation.
Taking a quick head count in this group, I've actually not really been able to see if anybody has missed out. I've seen Armstrong there, I've seen Ulrich, I've seen Hamilton, Mayo, Moro, Basso. All of the big names are in this leading group now, so we're looking now to a fairly interesting first showdown, but it's not going to be that decisive, I don't think, on the first day of the race into the Pyrenees.
All the US Postal boys waited for the mechanic there to throw off their helmets, and they just got back on with the job. Hincapie looking as though he's almost enjoying this experience. Never seen him look so good as he climbs on the mountain, and they're just riding up here. He's turned into a mountain climber as well as a great classic rider right now. Hitting out the tempo. Floyd Landis waiting if he should fail. Bobbing in and out the picture there, we can see Levi Leipheimer, and I'm just worried a little bit about Tyler Hamilton here, and his two teammates are waiting for them. That is Gutierrez and Perez.
He's not having a good day. When you see two teammates riding alongside a leader like this, the information has gone out that he is not good. He is not in great form. Just moving up alongside him, his teammate there is Santiago Perez. They're trying to pace Hamilton back into the group, but just look at he doesn't have the power in his pedaling action right now. His body is rocking. They're going to have to try and survive. This is the first sign of the crack of a champion at the Tour, but there's a move at the front. This looks like it could be Ivan Basso.
Well, that's going to hurt if it is an attack here. I saw that Jakob Peel just came onto the tail there, past Tyler Hamilton. Remember that Peel is 5th overall in this race, and he's going to conserve that or improve now. That is Carlos Sastre by the look of it as we get clear of the field. Another man we forget about, but he is a great climber, and he's always ridden well in the mountains.
Well, Rasmussen, by the way, we've kind of forgotten about him on his own at the front of the bike race, is around about 33 seconds ahead of that group. But this was a very good move. This is the leader right now. He's on his own, making his way towards the summit of this climb. He's on the easiest part of the climb, and it's very easy for me as an ex-non-climber to say this is an easy climb. He's on that part of the climb which is only around about 4 or 5%. The yellow jersey has cracked.
And Richard Vironk took a good look at him there. They're on rival teams, so I have a feeling Vironk is just saying stay cool here. I think he's actually passed him a word of advice. Voeckler is in desperate trouble right now, but he's fighting, and he's got every chance of hanging on here. We think Levi Leipheimer is just ahead. He's also been detached slightly after that attack by Sastre, who won a stage at Basque last time. This is Tyler Hamilton here now, and he is in big trouble. Santiago Perez is the teammate who's been earmarked to try and get him up to the finishing line.
It just goes to show to you the difference between being the leader of a team and being a helper. Vironk, I think, today here is doing the national thing of actually trying to help the yellow jersey not lose too much time. Vironk, his history of trying to finish high in the overall classification at the Tour de France is behind him. He's actually giving encouragement and psychological help to the young man who's there in the yellow jersey.
Whoa, they'll look at these two now. Rubiera, Acevedo trying to look after Lance Armstrong. They're the last two US posties at the front now. This is a free-for-all now as they race towards the line. But what a difference this is for 2 years ago. It's a battle royal now on the slopes of the Col d'Aspin. Riders are being spread eagle, dropped from the group. We have seen Tyler Hamilton in trouble, Levi Leipheimer. There is Leipheimer. Meanwhile, is the capture here of Rasmussen by this very select group. First up should be Carlos Sastre, and then comes the Armstrong group.
Unbelievable. It was 25 seconds just a few moments ago, and Rasmussen now has been brought in. And look at this, Ulrich too. The Kaiser is starting to crack. He doesn't have the acceleration, Phil. He's a huge man on a bike. He uses a massive gear. He cannot respond to the accelerations of men like Armstrong's leaders here.
Watch it, wait for it, because Armstrong's building here. Armstrong's realised that Ulrich is in trouble. He's getting round to grab onto the wheel of Acevedo, and once he's got him, we are being treated to the situation of 2 years ago when it was Roberto Heras that looked after Lance Armstrong to the line.
Ulrich now, he must not panic. He has to get into his rhythm. He is capable of losing 20 or 30 seconds in the first few kilometers of a climb, but what he has to do is get into his own rhythm. Armstrong realizes this. He wants to try and put time between himself and Jan Ullrich. I think Jan Ullrich is really the only man that he fears in the sport of professional cycling. How many times has he said Ullrich is the most talented bike rider? He's the one that Armstrong is afraid of, and he wants time this afternoon.
Well, Acevedo was brought onto the team when Heras was taken away because he wanted to lead his own team. Now Lance Armstrong is riding on the wheel of Acevedo. Acevedo's job is simple: pace his captain till he can do it no longer, and then we will see if Armstrong goes for the stage win. There is Jan Ullrich. There also now coming onto the tail too is Simoni. But right around the corner, being distant at the moment, and all of the men in the Tour de France are in desperate trouble now. Armstrong is putting himself in a position here to open up and go. It is déjà vu of 2 years ago on La Mongie. It won't be a yellow jersey this time for Lance Armstrong, but there will be a great deal of satisfaction.
The time coming through now to Armstrong and Ullrich is 25 seconds. Ullrich has got the great Italian climber alongside him in the pink and white jersey there, Giuseppe Guerini, just pacing him, making sure that he doesn't panic. A little bit further back there is a little climber from the Quick Step team. That is Juan Miguel Mercado. Still, there is no sign of any pain, and this is a bit of a surprise, Phil, because Andreas Kloden, the T-Mobile rider, the teammate of Jan Ullrich, is actually staying up there alongside Armstrong. He should really be with the team leader, helping him out.
He has gone with him, and Acevedo is setting all the pace. Armstrong will assess who's around him when he can, but he'll know who is not around him. Sadly, number 21, Tyler Hamilton, the maillot jaune, Voeckler, because of his big lead over Armstrong at the start of the day, he'll probably still be in the yellow jersey tonight, but he will have conceded time. Remember too, the Richard Virenque is in this group. This is and there he is. This is a battle royale now, and Virenque is trying to nurse the maillot jaune here, despite the fact he is 4th overall and on the rival team. Back up at the front now, Acevedo stamping on the pedals, repaying the big confidence that Armstrong had in him when he said, get him on my team. And now as he drives on, Kloden and Basso are the only riders there. Further down, it looks like Ullrich now is beginning to struggle even more.
This is the first big climb of the Tour de France, and the body, after a long, hard race over the flat, doesn't react maybe the same way as you want it to. A little bit further down there, you can just see, I think that is Levi Leipheimer just off the back of the Armstrong group with Gilberto Simoni. But it's a further 20 seconds back to the group that contains the man regarded as the #1 challenger. This group here, in fact, is containing Rasmussen. So Leipheimer is in front of Rasmussen. Number 51 there is Christophe Moreau. He's only about 15 seconds behind Armstrong. Georg Tocznik going through there for Gerald Steiner.
Cauchioli was there.
Still waiting, though, for number 11.
Well, that looks to me as though Jan Ullrich now is in desperate trouble on the day that they weren't supposed to attack. They all kept telling us they would just see how it goes. Well, I can't blame them for not giving their plans away. But there too is Laurent Brochard riding now. Guerini taking a good look at Jan Ullrich, saying, can you lift anything? Is there anything more we can do about this? Because Armstrong is in a position, and I think we'll see one of his familiar darts to the front and accelerations here. Iban Mayo is tagged on to the back of this group. He's the big star, but he's behind. There he is in the orange jersey. If I were a betting man, I'd go for Mayo now to win the stage. Francisco Mancebo is also here, and Denis Menchov, and they're also in the group there. That's Mancebo, number 61. And there goes a move, and that's Jakob Peel, I think, who's gone as he tacks now. No, it's Carlos Sastre again. Sastre again has gone for CSC.
Well, he's not a stranger to winning in the Pyrenees either. He's gone to try and see if he can get the advantage, but this just might rattle the cage of Lance Armstrong, who won't want to see riders stealing the glory away from him and his team here this afternoon. He doesn't have to attack, really, Armstrong. He's ridden on the front with his teammates, and they've set a tempo that has basically just eliminated one or two of his rivals. Rivals like Levi Leipheimer, like Tyler Hamilton, and, of course, more importantly, like Jan Ullrich. So now Carlos Sastre is out on his own with an advantage of not very much more than 10 or 11 seconds.
Well, they are not going to chase Sastre. They're not going to disturb their rhythm. Acevedo here gritting his teeth, holding it as long as he can, because he is the last US Postal man in that group. But the speed since they hit the Aspin has done all of the damage. Ullrich is beginning to lose ground again here. and this is not a good sign. Guerini is the rider pacing him as they come off the wheel there of Laurent Brochard. They are now at 5 kilometers to go.
A lot of people asked what was the flat 12 stages in this Tour de France going to do to bike riders with all of the mountains stacked up towards the end. Well, this is what it's done. The big riders like Jan Ullrich, who use monstrous gears, have a very hard time first day into the mountains changing from using the big gear ratios to the smaller gear ratios required in the mountains. This is what's happening to Jan Ullrich today. Don't ever discount this man. He can, once he gets his engine going, he's still a very talented bike rider. But immediately we hit the mountains today, Armstrong's team have put him into the red zone.
Well, in many ways, it's a shame. You can see the two pedaling styles there. Guerini pedaling a small gear, while Ullrich suffers pedaling that slightly higher gear. But now we are looking at the face of Armstrong, and Acevedo is going to push himself until he can pedal that bike no more today. Then he will hope that Armstrong can finish off this enormous day in the Tour. And tomorrow, this doesn't even compare in difficulty, because tomorrow is a terribly difficult day. And if your name is Ullrich, what will you be thinking when you go to bed tonight? There's Cloden looking over. Where's the team leader gone? Because he's not in the group here.
Well, this is Carlos Sastre on the front now. He's ticking away the kilometers. It's 4 kilometers to go for him. That's around about 8.5 to 9 minutes in the mountains compared to 4 minutes of racing on the flat stages. Carlos Sastre now looking to try and get a victory for this team, Team CSC. Now there's an acceleration, and this looks to me as if this is the acceleration from the T-Mobile rider. Now, this is a bit of a surprise.
Well, this is a magnificent piece of riding. Now Acevedo can do no more, and he's got to drop off the pace and hope that Armstrong can handle the rest. Now, the man who's won the Tour de France for the past 5 years, it's down to him. The man with this enormous ability, no longer the team. It's him against the rest now. Who's going to help him? Because Sastre at the moment is not a big deal. Here comes the move. They're trying to grab the wheel of Armstrong here to see if they can control the day.
This is not an attack. This is just control.
Absolutely.
He's just keeping his eyes out to see if anybody's going to try and come up to him. That just behind him there is Francisco Mancebo, the leader of the Il Baleares team, Balearic Islands from Spain. Over on his right-hand shoulder, you can see Oscar Pereiro. The interesting thing is that both Oscar Sevilla and Tyler Hamilton are not in this group.
And this is a great Phonak team. Pereiro and Gonzalez are the two riders riding on the shoulder of Armstrong. One of them will hit him soon and try to get the places. Ullrich is going further and further back here. He's not chasing, is he? He's hanging on to what he's got. He's not moving up at all.
Well, the gap to the yellow jersey at the moment is around about 1 minute and 17 seconds, so there's no problem for him. He should stay in the yellow jersey at the end of today's stage. We expected him to crack, but we didn't really expect to see this man in the pink jersey there crack. Jan Ullrich hanging on to the back of the group, and I can only think that what has happened to Ullrich here is he's used monstrous gears over the first 12 days, and surprisingly enough, Tyler Hamilton on his own terrain, he's regarded as a very good climber, is also being put into difficulty this afternoon.
Yes, Tyler Hamilton will live to fight another day, as of course will Jan Ullrich. It is a strange business racing a bike in the mountains. The body can do strange things. Tomorrow could be their day. That man there, Thomas Voeckler, has lived up to the tradition of wearing the maillot jaune. He won't give up, and he will keep his lead tonight, I'm sure of that. He'll just look a little bit closer in the eyes of all those behind him. Here we are, Carlos Sastre. It's his 4th Tour de France. He didn't finish his first one when he crashed on the 8th stage. Then he came with a stage win. He did wear the white jersey. Oh, I beg your pardon. I'm talking about Ivan Basso, who is also in the group at the moment. The Basque flags fly now as Mancebo. He is 10th overall in the Tour and about to improve.
Been joined there by Ivan Basso. Ivan Basso, I don't think will do any work at all because his teammate is off the front of this group. He, in fact, is trying to defend the position of Carlos Sastre. Armstrong has not reacted to these accelerations. Now, that is somewhat of a surprise to me. Now, look at this. This is Mayo at the back there, number 31. Looking a bit further forward. There's the blue jersey of Armstrong dancing away through the crowd, making sure he controls everything.
Here we go. This is now a total free-for-all on the slopes of the Tourmalet. We've never seen this before. We didn't see it in the days of Thévenet when he won in 70. He was chased by Eddie Merckx. We didn't see it either when Lance Armstrong won, because he only had with him his teammate Heras and Joshiba Bolocki. He's checking over his shoulder to see who's with him. He knows Ulrich isn't. He knows the boys ahead are not going to damage him overall yet. And here he goes. He's building up for a move. As he's not seen Ulrich, he's not seen any of them. He thinks, well, I may as well go and try what happens.
Ivan Basso has responded immediately to get onto the wheel of Armstrong. Armstrong now has to assume complete control. He has no teammates left. He used them all over the flat part of this course before we got to the mountains. Ivan Basso, let's not forget this man has finished 5th overall in the Tour de France and been the best young rider as well. He leapt across to the wheel of Armstrong. Armstrong has not got the big gap that we've seen him get in recent years, but certainly that was a serious acceleration and put all the Spanish climbers in a lot of bother.
Well, Ivan Basso, he was listed by many as a pre-race favourite. We didn't rate him too much, but he's right there right now when it really matters. We're back up to the leader, Sastre. That man, Bjarne Riis, who gave Sastre the team captaincy over Bobby Julich, said he's our man for the overall. And on day one, when it's a chance to put in your quest for overall, he is looking like the winner just now, or is he?
There's the control. Armstrong doesn't need to panic in a situation like this. He doesn't want to push himself too far into the red zone because he knows tomorrow is a very hard day at the Tour de France. A lot of big mountains to go over. Here, he's just controlling. Look at that face. That face doesn't tell you anything, does it? This
it
is
tells
a face
me he's
of
going to win the Tour de
concentration.
France.
It probably does. It's concentration. He's looking at the back wheel of the man that he's chasing there, Carlos Sastre, pulling himself up nice and slowly. There it is. I doubt if they'll try and attack him.
I still have to admit that Bjarne Riis has put together a great team for CSC in Denmark here, because they've got two riders alongside Lance Armstrong. They've ridden themselves so hard on the flat as well, and they're still very much in the race. Armstrong is in a Danish sandwich right now. Danish by the team nationality, not by the riders, by the way. As they come up together now, 3 riders. Armstrong against 2 others. Team CSC have been the leaders in the team race in this competition for a while now, and this is why. And Armstrong won't be over-worried by their presence, because the men he fears most are all struggling. And this was the day riders said, oh, the climb to La Mongie won't be decisive, it's rather easy.
Well, it all changed really, Phil, because of the weather conditions. Once the rain came down, it made it a lot more difficult. A little bit further down, you can see here, this is Andreas Kloden on the left-hand side with Francisco Mancebo. I feel this afternoon maybe the leadership of T-Mobile is going to switch across from one rider to another, because Bernd Ulrich is really something. There's Bobby Julich as well.
Yes, there's Heras sitting on the wheel there of Jan Ulrich, and Heras was the man that paced Armstrong 2 years ago to his great victory and the Maillot Jaune and the Tour de France. There is Brochard, but no sign here of Tyler Hamilton. He's in the next group as far as we know. As you say, Paul, pointing it out there, Michael Rogers of Australia is doing the ride of his life in this group. He's a rider for the future. He's only a young man.
2 minutes and 8 seconds from the leading group of 3 down to the yellow jersey. He shouldn't lose it this afternoon. He started the day with a very nice buffer over Lance Armstrong. It was a 9 minutes and 35-second buffer, and currently he's lost over 2 minutes of that. Now the acceleration coming from Ivan Basso and Lance Armstrong at the front as they go into the tunnel. It was actually in that tunnel going the opposite way that Sean Yates recorded 112 kilometers an hour going downhill. That indicates to you just how steep the incline is.
2 kilometers to go. That's for the leaders now, because Guerini is pacing Ulrich here in this same group as Heras. Andreas Kloden is also here. Up front now is Andreas Kloden. He could be, what is he overall, Kloden? He lies 13th, he's 10 minutes down. He's going to be up there and above Ulrich. They may have to ask questions who is going to lead the T-Mobile team by the end of this day. Now, there's only 2 riders down there right now.
Ivan Basso at the front, number 61, the leader of this team, 7th overall in the Tour de France a couple of years ago, and back in 2002 he finished 11th, but he was also the best young rider, tipped for future stardom. Look at the orange jerseys here. They were expecting to see Euskaltel Euskadi on the attack. Sounds like there's a problem at the back of the group. Tyler Hamilton, by the way, is at the moment riding alongside the race leader's yellow jersey of Thomas Voeckler. This is an unbelievable crowd.
Well, this is an incredible crowd. They are basically all Spanish. That's the Basque flag. As these 2 riders go up now, they thought they would be looking for Iban Mayo, but instead they're seeing the master of the Tour de France, Lance Armstrong, follow the wheel of Ivan Basso. This is Kloden. who might be becoming the new leader. We talked about this man 4 years ago as about to become one of the greatest bike riders. He got the bronze medal in the Olympic Games in Sydney, and he went into virtual anonymity. Well, he's back now since he won the German championship, and he might have to take over yet from Jan Ullrich. But for the moment being, here he comes again. This man in yellow is on a piece of elastic, and he's about to wind riders back in. He deserves every yellow jersey he gets.
Great bike ride. This man, you know, has been pushed up to the point of stardom in France here. Armstrong looking over his shoulder. He wants to see if there's any sign of weakness in Ivan Basso, but Basso is riding a superb ride here. This is the first time we've seen anybody really capable of staying up alongside Armstrong and turning pedal for pedal with the same amount of energy and encouragement as he is.
Ivan Basso, who's now riding his 4th Tour de France. And he's had no stage wins, but he has been best rookie with a white jersey victory in 2002, the year Armstrong on this very climb took over the lead of the Tour de France and went on to win it. And it was Basso who took the best newcomer's jersey. Now they ride side by side.
Francisco Mancebo here, the champion of Spain, a very strange style as he tries to drag himself up to the two riders in front. The white jersey is Andreas Kloden. The man on his wheel is Carlos Sastre.
But they're a long way down.
They're a long way down. They have opened up some serious gaps here, but I don't really believe that Armstrong actually attacked. It was just the pressure of his team that literally exploded the main field.
Exactly what happened 2 years ago. Armstrong now has put himself into a position where he's been obliged to finish off what others have started. As he continues to go through the tunnels towards the finishing line here now on La Mongie. I'm just wondering whether Armstrong will want to now accelerate, if he can, away from Basso. They need time. Armstrong wants time now more than the win.
There's no way that he's either going to think about offering the victory to the other man with him, because there's a 20-second time bonus for the first rider to cross the finish line as well. And that, added to the already around about 45-second advantage he's got over Jan Ullrich, would put Ullrich a long way behind in the overall classification. We've heard his team coach, Chris Carmichael, has said that Armstrong wants to try and get 4 minutes advantage over Ullrich before the final time trial of the Tour de France. He needs to get every minute, every second that he can along the way, if that's what his goal is.
He might have half of that today when we see the clock counting, because he is flying up this hill. We're inside the tunnel. Our cameras can't work in those conditions. We'll wait for them to come out. Here they are. Armstrong continues to hold high revs here, thinking of time more than the victory. Coming up to around 500 meters to go to the finish now. Superb ride by Basso. Let's not take that away from him. Look at his face. Which one's got the strength to finish this off? As Lance Armstrong looks for a stage win number 17. If he tries to take this one, Basso hasn't won a single stage of the Tour de France. 500 meters to go.
Now Armstrong looking across. These men are riding mano a mano, man against man, really just pitting themselves against each other, trying to see which man is the strongest as they charge up to the finishing line. But Ivan Basso, Phil, to me, looks very comfortable indeed. But watch out for the rage of Armstrong once he gets close to the finishing line, because I think he wants to get the win here. He likes history. He likes to repeat it.
I think Paulie's going to give us one of those treats of explosive power when he sees the flag that matters. He's cheered all the way up here. Basso, though, has had a tremendous first day in the Pyrenees, and he really has got an awful lot out of the race day. Has he got enough left to take on Lance Armstrong? How often have we seen that familiar style of Lance Armstrong? His concentration is high revving. Basso is just looking at him and straight ahead to see where that banner is, to see should he make the move, and if so, when.
They're both waiting. This has been an unbelievable escapade by these two men, but it's the first time really we've seen a man able to rival Armstrong in these uphill finishes. Now the kick, digging deep, just a little bit closer. They're looking for the banners. In fact, Basso's come into first spot.
He's gritted his teeth here. He's trying acceleration. Armstrong is putting his toes down. He is holding on here, and I think he is going to have a sprint. He would be looking for stage win number 17 if he gets it. Basso is giving him a long lead out. Armstrong hasn't done a thing about it. Basso gets the stage win. Armstrong gets the same time, a small second place bonus. He won't get the yellow jersey today, but boy, has he done some damage. And a great ride here too by Andreas Kloden.
He's going to be the new leader of T-Mobile tonight. Look at the time gaps, though. We're going to see some serious time gaps here this afternoon. 20 seconds there for Cloden, just coming across Mancebo at 23 seconds. And this is Carlos Sastre, the man who really set it up for Team CSC. This team is going to be well ahead of anybody else tonight in the team race.
Sastre in. And now the time starts to count as Iban Mayo comes up to the line here, and the time is going to be big gains today for Lance Armstrong over the men that matter. The Maillot Jaune hasn't come in yet, but he will pretty soon, and we'll update you on everything as soon as we take this short break. See you in a moment.